Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, and today's video will be going through a huge new Nintendo eShop sale and games worth buying, so let's get into it. Alright, the first game on today's list is Record of Lodoss War, D-Lit in Wonder Labyrinth. And so while the game is kind of a mouthful to say, it is a whole lot of fun, and it's an action platformer Metroidvania style game that features tight controls and graphics that really remind me of some of my favorite Metroidvanias, like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. One thing that's neat is that you have both melee combat and a ranged combat using bows and arrows, which lead to some unique puzzle elements. On top of that, you have different types of spirit energy you can use, which also lead to some unique puzzles. But also you'll need to alternate between the two, as some enemies will be weak against the wind type and others will be weak against the fire type, and so you'll have to manage that accordingly throughout the game. It's a challenging action platformer, and if you need a new Metroidvania fix, I definitely recommend checking it out. Alright, the next game on the list is Rising Hell. And so this is another action platforming game with a lot of roguelike elements, but instead of being an action platforming side-scrolling game, this time you're actually traveling up. And so you play as a warrior trying to escape from hell, and you'll face off against demons and monsters and hordes of enemies as you climb your way out of hell. And so you'll continually be jumping up vertically from platform to platform, taking on enemies, and gaining power-ups for your character as you go. You'll fight your base enemies as well as mini-bosses, and then even more challenging full-on bosses. But you'll probably die a lot in your progress going through, but you'll also gain power-ups that you can permanently improve your character and increase your chances of making it out of hell. So you have this base character that you can play as, but you can unlock more as you go along throughout the story. So if you're looking for a new addicting roguelike game, I definitely recommend Rising Hell. Alright, the next game on the list is Vengeful Guardian Moonrider. Now this is another action platforming game that's definitely inspired by classic action platformers, and I kind of felt like it was like Ninja Gaiden meets Mega Man in a futuristic world where the population is being oppressed by an evil government, and you play as a robotic ninja that was originally created to keep the population in check, but you turn against your creators and try and save humanity. And so you'll fight through challenging action platforming levels and against other robot bosses in attempts to save humanity. But on top of that, there's some additional unique levels thrown in the mix as well, like a first-person motorcycle level, for example. And on top of that, there's a bunch of hidden secrets in the game as well. So you'll have a slashing attack with your sword, but you can run as your character as well, jump and climb off of walls, and there's tons of hidden secrets throughout the game as well. And so you'll find these different chips that you can upgrade your character to really suit your play style. So some might restore your health, some might restore your magic, others can give you a double jump, and much more. Once you clear the first stage, you can really choose from any of the boss stages to go to as well, which again reminded me of Mega Man. And as you defeat bosses, you'll unlock additional powers you can use throughout the game as well. If you're looking for a cool new action platformer, I definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is the Mega Man Legacy Collection. And so this is part 1 of the Mega Man Legacy Collection. So in this collection, you'll get Mega Man 1 through 6. Personally, those are some of my favorites in the Mega Man series. Part 2 is also on sale, so if you want to play some of the later games, you can. But I think this first batch of the collection is my favorite. And these are intense, challenging action platformers where you'll face off against evil robots that are trying to take over the world. And as you defeat them, you'll gain their powers, creating somewhat of a rock, paper, scissors mechanic where some bosses and enemies are weak against certain weapon types, and so you'll blast your way through many challenging stages, boss fights, and levels in this massive collection of the first 6 Mega Man games. And if you haven't played these yet, I definitely recommend checking them out. Alright, the next game on the list is Mega Man X Legacy Collection Part 1. So again, following the first steps of the last game I talked about, this is actually Mega Man X 1 through 4, and in my opinion, those are the best in the Mega Man X series as well. And so this is more of a futuristic setting that takes place hundreds of years after the events of the original Mega Man series, but this time around you play as Mega Man X, and the gameplay is a lot more fast-paced. So you'll be able to dash, slide, climb on walls, gain weapon upgrades and armor upgrades for Mega Man, hidden throughout the stages, but it still features that rock, paper, scissors mechanic from the original Mega Man series. But like I said, these games are a little bit more intense. On top of that, in Mega Man X4, you'll get to play as Zero, a fellow Maverick Hunter who uses a Z-Sword, which is kind of like a lightsaber, to take on these enemies as well. So if you haven't played the Mega Man X series, I definitely recommend this collection as well. And this Part 1 features some of the best in the series. Alright, the next game on today's list is Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm. And so this is the first game in the Ninja Storm series, and is a great entry point to this series. And so the game is really an approachable fighting game set in the Naruto universe. And so throughout the story mode, you'll travel around the Hidden Leaf Village, taking on different quests, which consist of battles right from the anime, but also a ton of different mini games and huge boss fights as well. You'll get to play as some of your favorite Naruto characters from the early seasons, and if you're looking for a great anime style fighting game, I definitely recommend it. Alright, in similar fashion, the next game on the list is Dragon Ball FighterZ. And so this is another anime fighting game, this time in the Dragon Ball Z universe. In the storyline of this game, you play as a spirit that's trapped within Goku's body, and you're tossed into a world that's been overrun by evil clones of the Z Fighters. And so you'll need to go on a quest to rescue the different Z Fighters, adding them to your team. And I think the storyline is one of my favorite parts of the game. It's kind of like a whole new alternate universe, revisiting a lot of the classic scenes from the story. And so you get some great anime cutscenes thrown into the game that really fits in well in the universe, which is a great addition to the core fighting game of Dragon Ball FighterZ. And so you have a huge roster of characters you can play from the Dragon Ball universe in this incredibly intense, fast-paced fighting game. It's also pretty accessible, where the button combinations aren't quite as intense as some fighting games. But what I really like about this game is it really feels like you're actually playing the show. And so there's massive, devastating super moves that you can use, but even the back and forth fights between characters is really intense, and like I said, it really feels like you're playing the show. And so if you haven't picked this one up yet, I definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is Lost Castle. And so this is a unique dungeon crawler meets beat 'em up, where you play as different treasure hunters going back into a castle that's been overrun by evil demons. And so you'll fight through waves of enemies like goblins, skeletons, spiders, and much more. And it does have a lot of roguelike elements to the game as well. So as I mentioned, it has more of a beat 'em up style gameplay mixed with the dungeon crawler. And so you'll have a variety of weapons that you'll be able to find. Some of them are close range melee weapons, others are staffs that cast magic, others are bow and arrows for more ranged attacks. And as you progress through the game, you'll be able to permanently level up your character's base stats and abilities, which will help you get farther throughout the dungeons. Don't let the simplistic graphics fool you though, because this game is a ton of fun, super addicting, it has local co-op, and I definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. And so this is an action RPG re-release of a game that originally came out way back in 2013, but it's been ported to the Nintendo Switch, and this includes all of the DLC and the original base game. And so this is an open world RPG where you can create your character in a variety of different classes and explore this massive world. Another thing that's unique about this game is that you can create pawn characters which build out your party and support your main character that you play throughout the game. The combat is great, there's a ton of enemies and boss fights throughout the game, many side quests, and so if you're looking for a fun action RPG to dive into, I definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is Resident Evil Revelations. So this game in the Resident Evil series takes place shortly after the events of Resident Evil 4, and you play as Jill Valentine and her partner Parker as they investigate a new bioweapon attack, and this time around, you're actually playing throughout a cruise ship. And so it's a really cool concept. Most of the Resident Evil series you're playing through different cities or the mansion, but this time it's cool being on a cruise ship. It's kind of a new, unique experience. And this game made it a lot more action-oriented than some of the previous Resident Evil titles. So you're not really going to be going back and forth into your inventory a lot. You've got the herbs mapped to the buttons, so you can heal yourself quickly and switch between weapons quickly. And the gameplay is a lot of fun. On top of the great single-player story, there's also a raid mode where you'll be able to play as different characters, going through different missions, where you'll earn points that you'll be able to upgrade your character and weapons, which really has these RPG elements mixed with this survival horror game, and it's super addicting and a ton of fun. If you haven't played Resident Evil Revelations, I definitely recommend it. Alright, the final game on today's list is Resident Evil Revelations 2. This game takes place between the events of Resident Evil 5 and 6, and you'll play as Claire Redfield and Barry Burton as they explore a mysterious island trying to take down another new bioweapon threat. And so one thing that's pretty cool is that the storyline will jump back and forth between Claire's story and Barry's story, but they're going throughout the same locations, but it's kind of a different timeline. And so Barry will be trying to unravel what happened to Claire as he's revisiting the island in the future. And so it's a cool storyline and a lot of fun. It's really action-packed, just like the first Resident Evil Revelations game. And another cool feature is you can play this game cooperatively as well. So in each branch of the story, there's 2 playable characters that are exploring the world at the same time. If you're playing solo, you'll be able to switch between them at will, but you can again play in a co-op fashion, which is a whole lot of fun. On top of that, the game has a brand new raid mode, which is even more addicting and more expansive than the first. There's a ton more new characters to play as, and that gameplay element is super addicting as well. Again, you'll go through these different missions, gaining experience as you kill the zombies that you can then use to upgrade your weapons, make your characters more powerful, learn new abilities, and much more. So if you haven't yet played Resident Evil Revelations 2, I definitely recommend picking it up. Well again guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video on a huge new Nintendo Switch eShop sale, and hopefully you found some new games that were worth picking up. But let me know if there's any of these games that you're going to pick up now that you heard about them, or if there's any games that I missed that are on sale right now that are worth buying. I'm always down to check out new games and play more, so let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to smash that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.